Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, both online and in person. For today's presentation, we're thrilled to feature Nextleaf Solutions, a cannabis extraction company with groundbreaking technology, obviously patented, which is a big milestone that hit recently. Part of the team we have featured from the management team, we have Paul Pedersen, the CEO, and Charles Ackerman, the CFO. Nextleaf currently trades under the ticker symbol OILS, O-I-L-S. This presentation will start with a corporate overview followed by a dedicated Q&A session. Please be mindful of the cameras situated throughout the room as this is a live webcast to a large online audience. And we ask that you hold all of your questions until the end of the presentation. As I mentioned, we'll be happy to address them at that point. And without any further ado, I'll pass it on to the Nextleaf team.
First and foremost, just want to thank everybody joining us online and those of you in the room today. Obviously very excited to tell you about Nextleaf Solutions, a company that I co-founded and serve as CEO of. We were a company that started in 2016, and Nextleaf is a disruptive technology company that owns a portfolio of issued and pending patents around the commercial scale production of cannabinoid distillate, which is the precursor of every cannabis infused product. And the THC and CBD distillate manufactured through our patented process is an odorless, tasteless, and standardized for potency cannabinoid that's been highly purified through the extraction, refinement, and purification process. We really believe that companies that are able to manufacture at scale a high purity cannabinoid, whether that's a CBD, THC molecule, will be able to disrupt the infused product market in Canada that now becomes legal in October. And for us, we're very excited because we think that we've got the right technology with the right team in the most well-regulated cannabis jurisdiction in the world, which puts us in a great position to be able to capitalize on what's coming next in this industry. And what's coming next is vape pens, edibles, infused beverages, infused nutraceutical products. Those are 4 categories that we believe 12 months from now, if there's sufficient supply in the marketplace, will make up more than 50% of all the legal cannabis sold in this country. All those categories that I just mentioned are all currently illegal today in Canada. The only products that can be sold that are extracted are low-dose cannabis oil, which is effectively vegetable oil with a maximum potency of 3% THC. So we believe that as the industry evolves from companies over the last 5 years, which started in the medical market and now since October has been now legal for adult use, we think that as the industry now evolves from companies that are only allowed to sell dried bud, pre-rolls, and this low-dosed cannabis oil product and into these concentrates and edibles that again are legal in October, we think that the real market opportunity is for companies that specialize in producing the molecules that go into those products and then produce those molecules at scale and be able to provide turnkey solutions for a whole host of manufacturing-based companies that we see entering this space post-October as Health Canada releases regulations shortly at some point here between now and October. So the first question that we always get is what makes Nextleaf unique as far as our extraction technology. And extraction seems to be something that a lot of companies are talking about. And I think we always start with what the problem is. And the issue in the industry is what we see in Canada here and as well as in the United States is a lot of companies making crude extracts. And crude extract is a potency of 60% cannabinoid. What you have in there for the other 40%, you've got chlorophylls and fats and waxes and all these undesirables that cause issues with taste, smell, and standardization of dosage when you put it into a ready-to-consume format like a vape cartridge. So to give you an example is if you look at a edible product, which are currently illegal in Canada, and how those products have been manufactured for years in the sort of the black market or in other markets that are less regulated, i.e. in the United States. What you see, the problem is that a lot of these products don't taste very good. There's chlorophylls and fats and waxes in there that are then being covered up with sugar. we believe that in a fully legal market like we have here in Canada, we're going to have in October, that doesn't fly, and companies that are going to get these products on store shelves are going to be companies that start with a highly repeatable extraction and purification process of being able to capture molecules and be able to standardize and repeat the manufacturing of products with the specific dosage allowed by Health Canada. And we always say we love regulations. We think that Canada, being the most well-regulated cannabis market in the world, provides a tremendous opportunity for Canadian companies that then can develop products here in Canada under our regulatory framework and sell those products into our adult use market domestically, as well as our medical market domestically, and then international markets which are legal for medical use. When you look at our patent and our patent portfolio, which we have 3 issued patents and about I think 20 pending patents we're up to now, those patents are based on our process and based on proprietary equipment that we've had custom manufactured. Together are used to transform low quality dried cannabis into this high potency THC and CBD distillate, which then is used to infuse all these products. The finished product through our patented process is a tasteless, odorless cannabis concentrate that is best suited for infusing the value added products. So when you look at our process versus what some of the others in the industry are using, I think the 3 value drivers or the technical advantages are process efficiency, product purity, and what we call true scalability. And we think that true scalability is not buying more CO2 extractors and adding more lines. That's not true scalability. It is going to larger and larger components that allow you to operate under the same footprint within a licensed environment with the same amount of people. Obviously, we are big believers, and I think those who look at the data and see what's happening in the United States and other jurisdictions that allow outdoor cultivation. Canada just allowed outdoor cultivation this past October, and what we see in these jurisdictions is that there becomes a overflow and oversupply of biomass, and with the changes to the Cannabis Act, now hemp in Canada can be processed for CBD molecules. Again, this is crops that are farmed and grown outside, compared to today, which all the molecules and all the oil-based products sold legally in Canada are grown at indoor facilities under artificial light. So we really see that there's a lot of macro factors that are very much in the best interest of processors like Nextleaf Solutions, because we think that looking forward the next 2 to 5 years, as the price of biomass comes down substantially from where it is right now on a per gram or per kilo basis on a wholesale perspective, that as that cost comes down, our cost of goods sold comes down dramatically and our margins increase dramatically. And 80% of our COGS is driven by the price of this low-grade biomass. And we're extremely excited for a number of these companies that are starting to come online with hundreds of acres that we know will result in the price of dry biomass going to where we've seen in Oregon and places like Washington State, where the price has dropped substantially. This is a quick pictorial representation of our patented process, and I think the main thing I just want to point out is we categorize it into 3 steps. And the first step, the crude extraction process, that's what a lot of folks are doing in the industry, and getting to a winterized oil that is then sold for wholesale and ultimately into cannabis oil, which is the legal form of extract in Canada. What makes our process unique is in our refinement, our filtration, and our purification. We've developed our patents based on this process here. We've also developed alternative, less efficient methods, which we've also have patents pending on. For us, we looked at this 2 years ago when we acquired this intellectual property, and we said, let's try to develop and protect as much of this as we can. And looking ahead to whenever these products are going to be legal, this was late 2016, we felt like we could create a significant first mover advantage by being the first company to have patents issued. And proud to say that we've been able to beat every billion-dollar licensed producer in this country to the first issued patent now around the extraction and purification of cannabinoids. What is unique for us is the post-extraction phase. So through the refinement, filtration, removing chlorophylls, fats, waxes, and then finishing with a triple molecular distillation where we're able to get to that truly premium distillate, that cannabinoid that's tasteless, odorless, colorless, and now is ready to be added to a skin cream, a vape cartridge without clogging up or an edible or beverage. We've also developed patents on particular pieces of hardware, but I always use this analogy because I think it sums it up. It's like moonshine versus producing a premium vodka. And the difference between different vodkas tends to be in the filtration, and cannabis oil is no different. So Nextleaf as a company has been R&D focused since its inception in 2016. Our business model, as we look forward to the legalization of these products, now moves from R&D to commercializing our IP portfolio, and we're extremely excited because we think that there's a huge gap in this market, and that is when you look at where the capital raised by Canadian licensed producers has gone, over 90% has gone into building large-scale cultivation when you're looking at the production side. And I think a lot of companies have tremendously underinvested in the R&D and the facilities and infrastructure that's required to get up to scale with these high-purity extracts that are set to be legal. Our business model is built on two main revenue streams, that toll processing and what we call white label manufacturing, and that is producing products under our customers' brands. Initially, our one SKU that we will be white labeling in our facility is a vape cartridge. When you look at the data in the Canada's unregulated market, or you look at the data in the United States, you see that that is the single largest seller. We expect that to be the same in Canada. And we think that as a company, having a turnkey solution for small to medium size or even large licensed producers that are struggling with their tech on the extraction and purification side, as well as the manufacturing of these products that can then get approved for sale in Canada, we think that we've got a great solution that's going to really allow us to drive revenue through our white label business. And then, of course, toll processing. That's what we're seeing a lot in the industry today. There's two companies that are doing toll processing and contract manufacturing for licensed producers. And what we're seeing is that the market today is paying or charging 10 times what a company in California would charge for the similar amount of toll processing service. So we think that over time, the margins will get a lot more compressed on the toll processing segment, especially as more processors come online. But over the long term, we're really focused on the white label production side of the business, and that is buying lower quality biomass from outdoor cultivators, these big greenhouse growers. What we're acquiring is not their best stuff. It's their lower grade material that a lot of these companies are throwing out right now. So it allows us to put it through a patented process, remove the cannabis, the cannabinoids. We don't care about how that product looks, smells, if it's been dried improperly, if it has nutrient burn. What's important to us is we want the chemistry inside that biomass, and we have a filtration and purification process to clean it up and standardize it. So stepping back and looking at the market, and I think those of you who follow this space understand that this industry is very much in a transitional period from primarily being a legal industry that has been about growing flower and dried bud and pre-rolls. In the US, over 50% of the revenue comes from extracts and concentrates. We expect that to be the same in Canada. If you look at the medical sales last year, the sale of dried flower only grew 11%. And this is the medical sales by every licensed producer across the country. Those sales grew by 11%. The sales of cannabis oil grew by 95%. And so I think on the medical and adult use side, things are very much moving to extracts. Obviously, we've seen a lot of media attention. The Financial Post ran a great article that we loved. It talked about not only the oncoming edibles and beverages that are coming online in October, but specifically it talked about companies that secure unique intellectual property first will have a competitive advantage. And we have subscribed to that mentality since day one. I think over the next year you're going to see a lot of companies talking about developing intellectual property. We saw the largest cannabis company in the world put a press release out yesterday about some provisional patents, and I think because this industry has been federally illegal in the United States, there's very few prior art or basically patents that have been issued and filed, and we think this has given us a tremendous opportunity to really be a first mover in doing what I call a technology transfer, and that's acquiring market-validated technology that's been worked on and developed in the U.S. markets, like in California and British Columbia's prior medical program, patenting this technology and bringing it into the legal market. This is where we started as a business. We started 2 years ago with a mobile extraction lab that allowed us to validate our pilot scale version of our plant at licensed clients' facilities. This is where we're going to as a business. We have a processing only facility 40 minutes east of downtown Vancouver, 6,500 square feet. We have the capacity to process 100 tons of low-grade biomass per year, as well as research and development capabilities for formulations and on-site testing. We think that we're very strategically located in an area that has traditionally had a lot of cannabis cultivation. Within 1 hour's drive is 9 million square feet of existing greenhouses. These are greenhouses that are either growing cannabis today or growing vegetables today, and that are being converted over to growing cannabis. And what we know about that type of cultivation is it looks great in a press release talking about how much square feet of production. However, it results in up to 50% of the production is lower quality material that just cannot be sold as dried flower due to the issues around quality. What's nice is that having a processing facility nearby allows us to acquire biomass cheaply, as well as we look at the BC kind of MMAR market, or the market that has been protected under the Allard Supreme Court injunction. There's about 4,000 of those licensed facilities. We think a lot of them are going to convert over through this micro license, which Health Canada has just recently introduced. And we think that because of the definition of a license requiring micro cultivators to use a third-party processor, we think that it's going to be a great opportunity for us to acquire biomass, consolidate smaller lots, and pump oil out from our facility out in Vancouver. So looking ahead, these 5 categories are all formulation categories that are currently illegal in Canada. These become legal in October, and then again, Health Canada has to approve each producer or each processor to be able to sell these products. Our strategy has very much been based on don't reinvent the wheel. For us, it's been acquiring, developing, scaling existing technology from that BC, that California market, and then looking at how do we own that IP that goes into the extraction, purification of cannabinoids that are then added to all these infused products. The vape cart, I mentioned earlier, the edible market, to make a premium edible at scale in a federally legal jurisdiction requires a highly standardized input, so we think our technology is perfectly positioned to be able to execute on wholesaling oil to that market. And then finally, the beverage market, we're very excited about. We have a fantastic beverage partner that we think is going to be one of, if not the largest, infused beverage makers in the country. They've got an existing bottling plant in British Columbia. They can do 40 million bottles a year, and we have a supply agreement with them. So our cannabinoids, THC, CBD oils coming out of our facility then go into their beverages. We think that companies like this that are going to be able to pump out at scale 40 million bottles of infused beverages and with THC or CBD, I think what it represents is existing infrastructure that pending licensing and more importantly regulation from Health Canada, which they're currently working on from a draft stage. We think that these guys are going to be in a great position to help drive our business as far as allowing us to get access through white label and contract manufacturing to the infused beverage market. Proud to say we, as a company, have benefited from receiving 3 government grants. One is from the National Research Council. As our facility is awaiting licensing, we are working with hops, and hops has the same issues with chlorophyll and being required to filter out that chlorophyll to get to a distillate. It's allowed us to keep our team fed. We're also working on some technology for pesticide remediation and issues around toxicity in cannabis concentrates. We think that's the billion-dollar problem. It's very much on our R&D roadmap, and we think that as we get to outdoor cultivation, issues around pesticide remediation in the filtration and purification stage is going to be a big issue as companies are extracting hemp and marijuana that's grown outdoors. And then finally, we have a project working with BCIT and UBC. So looking at our executive team, myself, as I mentioned, co-founder, CEO of the company. I have our CFO, Charles Ackerman, here with us. Charles and I were both at Peace Naturals for about a year and a half, and that was Canada's first cannabis oil producer under the MMPR. When the company was acquired in 2016, we had started Nextleaf with the vision of never growing a plant and focusing on acquiring market-validated technology. Ryan Coe is the developer of that technology. He's the co-founder and chief technical officer. Ryan has 15 years experience and was one of the early adopters of Canada's medical marijuana program. One of our first hires was Dr. Krupal Pal, who is a PhD chemical engineer, fantastic experience from scaling biodiesel plants from pilot scale into true commercial scale. She's doing exactly the same thing now, but with the technology that Ryan invented, and scaling this up in a way that we think we can be a big player in the extraction and ultimately infused product market. And then finally, we were lucky enough for Tom Ulanowski to join us this past summer. Tom was at Canna Farms, British Columbia's first legal commercial producer of medical cannabis, for 3 years as their quality assurance person and manager. Took the company from, I think, 8 employees to over 50 when it was acquired by Vivo. And Tom was responsible for getting an oil license before some of the big billion-dollar companies, and he was responsible for getting Canada's first concentrated form of cannabis approved for sale by the regulators. And I think what our team has demonstrated is that we're executors. We aren't getting into this industry because we see it as a hot sector. We love this business. We have 10 full-time scientists and engineers that we've built around this technology that Ryan created, and then having someone with Tom's experience of actually running a licensed facility in one of the early facilities and actually getting it into cash flow, we think really de-risks our business and also demonstrates that we're well positioned to be able to execute on this opportunity. So skipping along, and this is a sort of a little milestone chart that we like to talk about. Really, the business kicked off in January 2017 when we acquired the IP and equipment that we've scaled up and filed a number of patents on. Our first patent was issued in 2018. We've just had a third patent issued. Have some exciting milestones. I think the most recent was getting listed on the CSE. So we began trading in March, so just 6 weeks ago. And for us, it's all about looking ahead, and 2019 and looking into 2020 are huge years for us. The biggest catalyst for value creation is obviously getting our facility licensed and getting that into commercial production. And as we get kind of a line of sight into when we can commence production, we're looking forward to announcing some of the agreements and supply agreements with some of our partners, and then obviously leading into commercializing our patented technology through the B2B white label production and toll processing. From now until we get into commercial production, we're using this opportunity to continue to develop our intellectual property portfolio. We think that our patent portfolio is tremendously valuable as we look at an industry that is now starting to evolve from agriculture and farming into complex extraction, purification, as well as infused product manufacturing. And when you look at life sciences and biotech, you see industries that intellectual property matters, and we think it's going to be exactly the same thing. We're very excited about the fact that we've been able to beat all these billion-dollar companies, and we think that it's going to create a lot of opportunities for us moving forward to really monetize those issued patents in a way that I think allows us to capture a market that we're tremendously excited about, and that is the infused edible and concentrate market that Health Canada will be announcing the regulations on. They have draft regs that are out today, and those laws come into effect in October, and then there's going to be some time period as far as getting licensed processors in this country getting licensed for beverages and concentrate products. So just quickly looking at our cap table, we have raised I guess $11 million to date, just closing off a $4 million financing. We've been very strategic with that, positioning folks that I think are big believers in our management team, in our business model, and most importantly in our patented technology. So upon closing this in the next few days, we'll have about 107 million shares out on a basic outstanding level. and a total of $15 million raised since inception. Looking at a market cap of about $60 million, we think that our company represents a tremendous opportunity for upside when looking at some of the peer comps that are a year ahead of us on the licensing side, but we feel that we're in a great spot with our technology. And for us as an industry, I think what has been very interesting looking at the space is that when the first company came out with an extraction-only business model, in many ways similar to ours, in the sense that no growing plants and trying to develop brands and distribution, but just toll processing and white label manufacturing. I think what we've seen is the two processors in Canada have really been able to get up to revenue and EBITDA a lot faster than companies that have tried to be vertically integrated. And I think the biggest thing that they've demonstrated is the largest cannabis companies in the world are now using third-party processors, and to us, I think it demonstrates that there's a lot of billion-dollar companies that arguably haven't invested enough into the R&D and into developing that capability in-house. What we love about this is the extraction purification side of the industry is heavy on the IP, and we think that that is one way that we, as a $60 million company in a world of large market cap cannabis producers, we think that the issued patents allow us to compete with a lot of companies that have raised a tremendous amount of capital over the last 5 years. So to wrap it up, and love to open the room up for any questions, but to wrap it up, I think what we're most excited about is the fact that we've been able to execute on the intellectual property side. We've been very innovation and science focused, and for us it's all about creating a disruptive technology that allows the transformation of plants into molecules, and then those molecules ultimately into manufactured infused products that are coming online. We think that our technology gives us an advantage over what others in the industry are doing. It's more scalable. It allows for higher purity and, most importantly, more efficient process. And as the margins compress and as the fundamentals start to matter, we think that you've got to be a company that can process lower grade material and be able to increase top line and bottom line margins with that lower grade material that you're processing, extracting, purifying, and then ultimately finding markets for. And we think that the cannabis industry is it's a great opportunity right now, because it gives companies that are really focused on developing a leading advantage on the technology side. I think it gives them an opportunity to create leadership in an industry that has been unfocused and has very much been focused on cultivation. We're very proud of our team, and we think that we're the right team at the right time with the right technology to monetize and capitalize on this once-in-a-generational opportunity here in Canada. Canada is now the first G20 country to legalize cannabis federally, and now in October we'll be the first country to legalize all the infused products federally. So that's it for our presentation, and would love to open it up to any questions.
I got a question. Will you license your technology to other companies to accelerate your growth?
We've looked at that. We think that what we have done is I think we've decided that we will only license our non-core technology. For us, we've had opportunities to license it in Canada as well as internationally. We feel that I think a lot of companies over the last 5 years in this industry have made the mistake of trying to do too much and trying to be in too many different markets, and we think that the best market in the world is right here. It gives us an opportunity to develop technologies and products in Canada in a federally legal market and be able to export those products. Now, we are looking at licensing our non-core technology, for example, through our relationship with our beverage partner. So licensing technology that goes into making cannabinoids water soluble and shelf stable within a beverage. And we view that as not necessarily a core to our primary technology, which is that extraction, purification, refinement side.
I have another question about terpenes. So I noticed that in your production diagram. So can you control the terpene profile of the oil,
So-
or alter it in any way?
When you're looking at extraction and purification, you can only extract what's in the biomass. So if there's no there's not a specific cannabinoid that you want to target, if it's not in the biomass, you can't pull it out. Now, with the issue with terpenes, and it's a misconception in this industry, the issue with terpenes is that they're highly volatile, and once you introduce heat to the extraction process, they get degraded, and they aren't what people expect, and what terpenes are in a herbal form of cannabis. But the work around that is either adding terpenes that are food grade, which you see in other manufacture in food and beverages, or you're reintroducing the cannabis derived terpenes through a separate process, and which you're removing them from the herbal cannabis biomass before they're degraded and introduced to heat. So that's where we're very excited. I think that when you're looking at formulated products, we think that by having a technology that allows us to separate, isolate, and reformulate molecules and the chemistry that's in that herbal form, we think it offers tremendous opportunity to be able to then develop products, or have our downstream clients have them develop products based on the exact formulation. And that's, I think, what we're seeing in the medical market is then physicians then have the ability to prescribe or recommend cannabis oil-based products that can then be more easily administered and more accurately dosed.
Well, that's it. Then, yeah, no questions online. Thank you very much.
So you guys raised $4 million. What are the use of proceeds to be used for?
Yeah, sure. So the use of proceeds from this financing will generally just be working capital. We've got our existing facility fully funded, and that'll take us through to first revenue and licensing in the fall. So just general working capital.
Right. And I know that you guys just built your central processing facility in November. Are you guys looking to build one out here in Ontario, or?
Definitely looking at a bolt-on, and I think a natural bolt-on would be manufacturing products. Our business model is built on extracting in our existing facility that's fully built out. With our phase one, we can extract and take to distillate. That's 90+%. 100 tons of biomass per year. What we don't have space for is getting into a lot of the manufactured products. We think that's not an issue for our phase one, because we can get into the manufacturing the most important and the biggest selling category, and that's the vape cartridge. And then the bulk distillate CBD or THC-based cannabinoid oil can then get sent to the licensed manufacturer, processor, other licensed producers that have a brand and existing distribution but don't have a supply of oil. I mean, if you go into a legal retailer, whether that's Ontario or BC, what you're going to find out is that you cannot buy legal CBD in this country because there's a massive supply shortage. And so for us, the low-hanging fruit is being able to sell THC and CBD oil wholesale to these companies that have existing supply relationships with the provinces and have patient bases through the medical market.
We actually have a question from one of our online viewers. So the question is, you mentioned custom equipment. Is there IP and unique technology there? Will this be patentable?
Yeah, I mean, it's patentable because we've been issued 3 patents, and what we always say to simplify it is that we think that when you're looking at what goes into the IP of getting, going from a low quality biomass into a high purity molecule that's been separated and be able to be reformulated, we say that 30% of the secret sauce is in the equipment. We've got 18 different manufacturers that we use. We also have a couple pieces that are custom fabricated. We have a patent issued on one of those pieces of equipment that is a filtration apparatus. It solved an issue with bottlenecks post-extraction. We think that, again, the equipment's 30% of it. The other 70% is your process, your methodology, pressures, temperatures, and for us, that's what we've also patented as well. So we have an issued US patent around that process, as well as issued patents around less efficient methods that can allow producers to kind of get around our IP, and I think we've been very strategic in how we've developed that IP portfolio. We think it's going to be extremely valuable as companies ultimately have to get to that 90+% distillate in order to have that precursor for all these infused products. And for us, we're going to continue to develop IP. We expect to get 3 more patents issued, hopefully in 2019. And we expect to double our pending patents as well, just based on the work that we're doing on the R&D side. And just very excited to continue to develop, acquire, and protect intellectual property that's already been market validated out in BC and other parts of the world.
So it's interesting that you just mentioned patents, especially U.S. I guess that's just again mirroring with your Canadian patent here, or the patent that you filed in Canada. So, to me, when I hear that, I think that obviously you're trying to protect something as it relates to, obviously your process, and the fact that you've got a U.S. patent surrounding it sort of indicates to me that at some point there's going to be some expansion south of the border. So
yep.
what can you share about that in terms of what your vision is?
I think what we have said since day one is that we will never touch the U.S. until it's federally legal for us to do so. Part of that belief stems from the fact that the company that Charles and I were at before starting Nextleaf was acquired by Kronos, which was acquired by Altria for a pretty significant premium based on fundamentals of the business. And we think whether you look at the Altria deal, you look at the Constellation Brands deal, you look at a company like PepsiCo that is looking at what their entry point is into the infused CBD beverage space, all those companies have one thing in common. They don't want to do business where it's federally illegal like it is in the United States. And what we always say is we love Donald Trump because we think he's great for any company setting up operations in Canada. And that is because as long as it's federally illegal in the US, the PepsiCos of the world and these other big CPG-based companies, when they test market a CBD market with their brand and everything else, we think that a lot of them are going to look to Canada. And so for us, what we're very interested in the US is now the Farm Bill and what's happened with industrial hemp. And what's great about our technology is that it works with industrial hemp just like it does marijuana. There's different challenges and different opportunities. The biggest opportunity is hemp is grown at pennies on the dollar at scale compared to marijuana that's grown indoors in Canada under artificial light. And so for us, that's that CBD-based market in the U.S., which is still illegal despite the Farm Bill. We think that in 12 to 18 months, when the FDA comes out with regulations, that as a company we're going to be ready to execute our U.S. strategy and really, again, be in line with what's happening in the U.S. We think that, again, we have a great advantage in Canada because there's a lot of partners that we have the opportunity to work with because we are only doing business where it's legal.
All right, maybe another question, one of our online viewers. What licenses are you waiting for and what are their timelines?
So our facility that's 45 minutes east of Vancouver has a pending application on a standard processor license as well as a research license. And the standard processor license is the new license that was introduced by Health Canada back in October. That license replaced what used to be an ACMPR license, and licensed producers would then have an amendment to the cultivation and being able to produce extracts. And so for us, we think that our expectation is that our facility will be licensed in 2019, and very much our belief is that based on how long Health Canada has taken over the last 12 months and our team and the fact that they're security cleared from previously working at a licensed producer, all the consultants and professionals that have gone into building out our security and quality assurance program have 4 and 5 years of experience in this industry. So fully expecting that the licensing of our facility will be online with the Health Canada's licensing of these infused products, and just very excited to get into production and evolve again from an R&D focused business into large-scale production. And we always say we're very proud of the team and being able to beat a lot of big players to these patents. But patents and IP are only as good as your ability to monetize them or protect that IP through the court. So obviously our strategy is to get into production and be able to monetize our IP portfolio within our licensed facility.
one final question. Will there be a retail side of Nextleaf, selling of products, edibles, etc.?
We don't have a strategy for our own branded products, and that's very, it's intended to be that way. We have said from day one that I think a lot of companies have made the mistake of being too vertically integrated. They wanted to be growers and processors and brands and distribution, and you just don't see that in natural health products and other industries. The only reason I think we've seen this in this industry is just due to licensing. So our strategy is focus on the low-hanging fruit, and the low-hanging fruit is the largest cannabis companies in this country and in the world are having a difficult time bringing CBD oil to market. We're talking about a crude oil in vegetable oil, and we think that the low-hanging fruit is toll processing and doing white label manufacturing under our partners' brands, and we think that it allows us to simplify our business and be the best in this country at running a high purity extraction processing operation that allows for the standardization and ultimately manufacturing of all these new product formats.
Perfect. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Paul and the team. That was excellent. And again, to our viewers as well. And have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.